Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of news, starting with the Mountain Bike World Championships in Crans-Montana. There has been the Vuelta. Cyclocross racing is getting underway more and more. We had a day with 3 cyclocross races this Sunday. And then, of course, there is the news around Fem van Empel. And with me here, Issam. Thank you for being here.
Yo! Yeah, thank you for having me.
It might be a bit weird for a cyclocross podcast, but we're going to start with the Mountain Bike World Championships, which took place in Crans-Montana this weekend. Racing started on Thursday. In terms of cross-country, the short track was earlier last week. Really a week full of spectacle, if you look at it that way. Lots of events going on. Of course, a lot of attention went out to Mathieu van der Poel, who raced the men's elite race, Issam, and the reason we're starting with it is partially because I went there and have a number of interviews to play during this episode, but also because we ended the previous podcast with this. We took a preview based on the Le Gay World Cup and we discussed, hey, what can Mathieu van der Poel do in Crans-Montana? We knew that the course here would be more challenging in Switzerland, but we didn't really see this coming. First of all, he made the decision to not race the short track, fully focus on the cross-country event. I believe he could have done the prelim qualifiers, but he really wanted to focus on the cross-country event, which personally I understand. But then the race came, as some lots of speculation about his start position. Could he make it to the front? That answer was yes, but then he didn't have a good day. He blew up, at least that's my observation. He fell back quite quickly, and then also his head went down quite quickly. As soon as he lost connection with Simon Andreasen, who actually made it to the front group, which was fighting for second for most of the race, as soon as he lost that connection, his head went down. He didn't really seem to care, and I think in the last lap he still lost like 10 places or something.
It was not good. I mean, you know, the first sort of meltdown in terms of just completely dropping, I guess, and then he was in the wheel of Andreasen and he was able to hang on for a while, and I thought that could be the ride in which, you know, if you hang on well enough, you know, you might have a chance in the end to salvage a little bit something. But then of course, you know, he was not able to follow, and then it becomes difficult, you know, because if the legs are not great and the goal that you were, you know, hoping to achieve, you know, there is no hope whatsoever for it to salvage any, you know, top result or top 10 or whatever. And then when you see them pass one by one, it was just it was nothing to save. I mean, Blevins had a similar race and he was able in the end, I think, to finish ahead. So it was not a good day at all. He was very honest about it after the race. And yeah, there's not really much more to say. I think if you look at his race up until the point he was trying to chase Hatherley, I think okay, you know, technically he was definitely, there was still the deficit, but it felt a little bit better actually. And I have to say there was a little bit of, I would say, believe in a good result. I mean, I was not thinking that he was going to be world champion, but I thought, you know, podium, top 5, maybe top 10, but that was definitely within the books. But, you know, when the legs just are not there and you blew up, you know, it's not much you can save at that point. And I think also at some point mentally there must have just been a switch that you know, the season is too long, the legs are not there, and that was all it was.
Van der Poel said he didn't quite feel himself, so he kind of alluded, I've been feeling a bit tired after I got pneumonia in the tour and I needed to take a rest, and I kind of went here and did my best, but I didn't really feel at the top of my game. So now I have the opportunity to take a long rest period and I hope that will set me good. But I agree with you, Issam, because he did look better on the technical downhills than in the Gay. He was very cautious, and what I saw and heard from people who saw him ride the first day he could do course practice was that it didn't look good and that it looked quite sketchy still. I mean, the drops, like even on the TV, even the drones don't really do it justice. The amount of speed they carry and how rough these rock gardens are and these drops and these jumps and how slippery and big these roots are, you only really get a sense of it when you're like at the bottom there. The Skoda waterfall, if you're standing there at the bottom, it just looks like they're coming right towards you, and then they just yank it into this banking. Whoosh! It's crazy. It's really crazy to see, and I think the fact that he rode 2 weeks on the mountain bike really helped, and that shouldn't be rocket science to anyone. But I guess maybe, like you said, there's not that much to say about it, but maybe a final words like, what do you think this means for the future of Van der Poel and mountain biking? I think personally he's not going to say farewell to it. And I think he should treat this sort of like end of season stint on the mountain bike as something to get hope from. Sure, mountain bike world's not good, but he should take the positives from it. Legué was a solid performance. If he locks in, does some dedicated training for it, races a few more races, doesn't need to like blow himself up getting to the front so quickly, then he does have the potential to be a top contender in mountain biking. You need to be really good to beat this Alan Hatherley. I want to have said that because, man, that was a performance. But Van der Poel, he does have the potential in him to be in that group for second place behind Hatherley, but he needs to lock in on it more, and we will see if that happens in the upcoming 3 years.
Yeah, I agree with you on the part that he definitely has it in him, I guess, to be fighting up there for top 5, top 3. Today, there was not really someone that had an answer on the performance of Hatherley, and he drove amazingly. And I think, for Van der Poel, I have, in a way, there's also sort of this thing in which I look at the field, the men's field currently, and I'm like, maybe this was the best chance in a way to get a podium, because I feel that there are certain riders that are starting to grow and get better and better, and they will be more consistent, they will evolve, they will improve, and the men's field is definitely, I feel that there are certain riders that will step up more, and certain riders that just don't really have their season yet, and when we get closer and closer to the Olympic year, the level will also somewhat go up, because there are certain riders that, I wouldn't say already think about the Olympics, but just that whole goal that is coming up, it changes athletes in a way, and it makes sure that they push towards a greater goal, I guess. And, it will be interesting to see how it will play out next year, and if it will be similar. And for Van der Poel also, he will be able, with a good preparation, all that, to be in the mix. But I definitely feel that if he takes it a little bit more seriously and has an approach which makes a little bit more sense, which takes a little bit more time out of his schedule, then I think he's definitely capable of running with the top of mountain bike.
What did you then think about the performances of Puk Pieterse? She came in with some questionable expectations following her rough patches in the Tour de France Femmes and then also the French World Cup in Legué, and she was relatively well up there until she flatted and eventually finished 6th.
Not a bad race at all. Looking back at what we were discussing in a way, I think that it was the results from Van der Poel and Pieterse were somewhat the other way around, I guess. I think that Pieterse managed quite well. You could see that she was not at her best. She was not able to do the things that she potentially was able to do at the front. Never really had anything left, I guess, to react or whatever. It was basically just trying to hang on. And the puncture was unfortunate, but I don't think it will have a bad taste in a way, because, it wasn't really for a podium. Podium was, that was all played out quite nicely, and there was not really a chance for Pieterse to be in the mix. But I think that, it's a relatively positive way of ending it, I guess. I don't know what she will be doing, but I assume this is it. And, it's now try to get some rest and focus on the next goal, whatever that will be.
This is it for Pieterse. She's going to take a rest. The Dutch national coach, Gerben de Knecht, who is the mountain bike and cyclocross national coach, gave a pretty extensive interview to the NOS before the race, saying he believes that Pieterse did too much before the Tour de France Femmes, that she cross-season, then the Spring Classics, then immediately onto the mountain bike, then altitude camp. Just these short breaks that has caught up to Pieterse. He thought that a place where she would eventually finish would be somewhere lower in the top 10, so in that sense, she overperformed the expectations of the national coach. 4th or 5th would have normally been the result, but now it becomes a question for me a bit, Issam, because another puncture, it's really a lot of punctures for Pieterse. So we had one earlier this season. I don't exactly recall what race. Probably it was actually Nove Mesto, now I think about it. She was up there and had a flat. Of course, the Olympics from last year are still in our minds, but she has a lot of punctures to the extent that it almost can't be bad luck anymore. There has to be something like either bad tires, maybe she takes too many risks. Like, she has a very, very odd amount of punctures. And at the same time, I struggle to believe that it's too many risks, because in the downhills, it looked like she was struggling and she couldn't really keep up with Richards on those sections, and she really needed to have it from her uphill strength.
Yeah, but Richards is that's like the top level of downhill in a way. So I don't know, but I think it's definitely something that you want to fix going into the next races in mountain bike overall. Because imagine if you arrive at the Olympics with the best form, best preparation, maybe 20 seconds up or something, and you have a puncture. That could be the difference between winning a gold medal and probably not even being on the podium. So they have to sort it out. They have to find out what it is, and if they know what it is, they have to fix it, because it could be a game changer, and it is sort of an external factor in a way, which that has nothing to do with skill in a way. Of course, if you inflict it on yourself, then obviously it has to do with skill. But I'm just trying to point out that it's just a factor that you don't want to have, that you don't want it to influence your race and the result of it. They have to find something on it, because it is a phenomenon that has been coming up in her races a little too often, I guess. And yeah, now as I said, it wasn't for a podium, but if it was, it would be quite a painful puncture, especially the way she entered this race, where it looked like nothing was really possible. And yeah, I think result-wise it was still good, but again, as I said, now it doesn't matter, but you have to learn from it and improve and make sure that doesn't happen again.
Like I said, I think the rest will do a lot of good for not just the physical state of Pieterse, but also the mental state. It must be really demanding to be constantly on. And sure, she has these mini breaks, but it takes a lot, and you need to sacrifice a lot to always be in good shape. And I don't really want to elaborate too much more, because we've discussed it so much that you and I both think that she's been doing too much, and at some point it would catch up to her. It appears that the national coach now thinks that has happened. There were also youth races here, and we don't need to go over them all too extensively, but let's go into the woman U23 first. We mentioned it last time already. Is there something as too much talent, is your quote, for Isabella Holmgren? Is there? Because this was a curb-stomping demonstration. Like, first lap, whatever, take it easy, and then, 30-second lead, minute lead, 2-minute lead, cruise. Wow, what a dominant victory. Back-to-back, also won the short track, defended her world title. It's been really, really, really dominant display by Holmgren on the mountain bike this year. She only lost the race in Leguet after Tour de l'Avenir and in Nove Mesto when she crashed out, but what a phenomenal talent she is.
Yeah, absolutely, a pleasure. The first lap, I was like, it was hard to judge what was going on, but the way she was moving up, and then unfortunately for the competitors, the way she took off, there's nothing you can do at that point. There was just a huge difference between her and the rest, and insane. Lost for words in a way, because it really was, she was on it, and the difference was there, and it was a very well-deserved World Championship title, well-earned. I think the question now is probably going to be, what is next? How will she be fitting in the next season, and will she be racing with the elites as well, and all that? So it's interesting to see where that will take her. But for now, I think she just needs to enjoy, be very, very, very happy, and be content with the result and the performance and where she's at the moment. Just try to improve if there is anything to improve on, but there is definitely something to improve on if you want to be ready for the elite level.
I do think there's still room for improvement, but the thing here is that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit is that it's great to see all these cyclocross racers do well, right? But the question is, how long will we see them in cyclocross still? Because there are a lot of pull factors elsewhere. But we can maybe elaborate on that in a little bit. But for Isabella Holmgren, she's already said that she and her sister Eva have finished 7th after a strong recovery ride. She was lined up nearly on the last row of the starting grid. But they've already said that for them the future is more of a road mountain bike combination, and that cyclocross is a nice extra and a good tool for them in the winter. But they see their future more on a combination of mountain bike and road, and their goal is to race the Olympics in 2028 in LA, and that's a few years from now. Isabella Holmgren and Eva Holmgren, for that part, will be first-year elites then. I hope especially Isabella Holmgren next year will race in the elite races. It would be really interesting to see how she holds up there, because, wow, what a strong performance it was there. It was really special to see. Then, second place, Issam, went to Vida Lopez de San Roman, the current US cyclocross champion, woman elite. What did you think of her race?
Was very eager. Kinda on merit was in that position. Really good. But then obviously Olivier Onesti who was in front in the beginning of the race, really setting the pace. Looked like it was going to be between the two for second. Was making a couple of mistakes behind Onesti and eventually was able to get in front, and that was the right decision. You know, Onesti had that nasty crash, was not able to continue, and from there on it was just basically making sure that nothing came from behind and bring it home the silver medal. And I think that's also a hell of a performance. And sure, I think Holmgren somewhat stole the attention there a little bit, but nevertheless I think it was also a performance to be very proud of Vida Lopez de San Roman, and it was either going to be second or third. To be honest, the moment she took initiative and was ahead of Onesti, it looked like Onesti was hurting a little bit because of the effort that she had done early on in the race, and so I think it was regardless going to be for second. In the end it was second, so I think a very strong performance as well.
It was a great result, and I've been following her for quite some time now, and she's been featured on this podcast a number of times, I think as a first-year junior, second-year junior, and also last year at the US National Championships. Patrick, our North American correspondent, I should say, he gave an interview with her, and it's just been very interesting to follow her progression, and she's been close on several occasions, and now everything clicked. I had the opportunity to speak with her a few hours after the race, shortly after the men's race, and it's a 9-minute interview. Ignore the opening because I wasn't sure when I was recording the multiple interviews I did which one would be played in which order, but here it is. We are still here at the World Championships mountain bike in Crans, Montana, and with me here now is silver medalist in the women's U23 category, Vida Lopez de San Roman. Vida, is it kind of sunk in yet? We're a few hours after your race.
Yeah, I don't think it honestly still has it all, but yeah, it was a really, really special race, a really special day. Pretty surreal. I still don't have a lot of words. Honestly, just, yeah, pretty excited.
So how was it? There were a lot of fans. Did you feel kind of how often hear riders talk about like being in the zone and it becomes like all blurry? How was that for you today?
Yeah, I definitely felt like I was able to find a different gear out there. I think there was a lot of chaos, a lot of noise, I was pretty stressed about the start and a lot of like little things leading into the race, that just because of a lot of the chaos that's happened at some of the World Cups earlier in the season, where I've had experience being in several crashes or having mechanicals, that like I really tried to show up as best prepared mentally for anything and everything to happen. And I think because of that, it was able to go so smooth sailing off the start because I was really prepared. And so, yeah, I was able to get a really good start, which I was really happy about, and just able to avoid all the chaos off the start and really just ride into the front wheels, where
nice to meet you. A pleasure.
it kind of honestly instantly like dwindled down to a few of us, where I felt like I was riding the descent's pretty strong because I made a last-minute decision to go out on bigger tires, which I was really happy about because it was quite slick compared to yesterday. And so I felt like I had a little more confidence on the descents, but like without having to push, I could just take more consistent, repeatable lines even throughout the first 2 laps. That really made the difference that set me out in front with the 2 other leaders, Olivia and Bella. And then, yeah, I wouldn't say it was a like seamless race because I did have quite a few mistakes here and there that I had to pick myself up from and kind of like recenter and keep going without getting too in my head. I had a crash on the last chute, which on lap 2 or 3 where I had to run down it because I was following Olivia, and then I had another crash on one of the corners into the tech zone because the pavement was so slippery and I came in with a lot of speed and I hit the ground right in front of everyone, but it was okay. And I got up and I kept going because the course was a course that really strung out the field so much. They ended up being very minor mistakes in the end, and all of the consistency in my lines and effort was able to like make up for those little mistakes in the end. So I was really happy that I was able to recover from those. But a lap or 2 to go, I decided to like make the move to be. Bella sort of rode away, started extending a gap on Olivia and I, but I decided I wanted to go first wheel into some of the descents, and unfortunately Olivia had a bad crash, and that's where some of the separation happened. But I was able to like keep the gap consistent and keep going super strong until the end. So yeah, really, really, really proud of the fight that it was out there.
Earlier you told me that one of your things you were thinking about during the race was you need to want it. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's actually a funny backstory because I had lots of like mantras and little words to be thinking about throughout the race, like I always do. But there was some backstory to Bentonville camp with USA Cycling where I wasn't there unfortunately, but everyone was doing VO2 testing, and the guy who was doing VO2 testing was this like Southern guy who like went, "You gotta want it," to Dan and to everyone doing testing. And so he kind of announced that at dinner last night, and he was like, I don't remember this guy's name, but he said, there's a really special someone who wished he could be here tomorrow, but he wants you to know that you gotta want it. And so I was definitely thinking about that during the race, and they were screaming that at me on the sidelines. And so every time I heard that come from them, I thought, I want it, and I kept going up the climb. So that was kind of a funny little mantra I had today, along with many others. But yeah.
How much does it mean to you to finally break the podium? You've been close a number of times. Last year, 4th in the junior women's. In cyclocross, you've been close as well, and now finally it clicks.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I don't have a lot of words, but it just means everything to me, I think. Yeah, it's been a hard 2 years of getting here, and with a lot of adversity in and outside of my racing. So it means a lot because honestly, like, I think the biggest thing for me this year has just been really having the racing be like such an outlet of enjoyment that I'm not really focusing on the outcome or expectation at all, just really enjoying like each moment of racing. And I think that's exactly what happened today, and that's why it means so much to me. Yeah.
And how has it been to join Trinity, live in Spain? That's also been a big step in your career.
Yeah, it's been, honestly, also has been everything for me. Thank you. And it's made a huge difference this year to have such a team of who really like loves and supports me beyond just results and outcomes of things. I think it's made all the difference to just like have that security that my support won't ever change depending on a result. And I think that environment's like set a really good tone for me from the start, just knowing that like I didn't have to perform a certain expectation in order to gain a certain amount of support. It was more just guaranteed because they really care about their riders, and it's such a good environment. So it's made a huge difference for me all season. I think Jess and Jess especially, it's been her first year managing a team and a mountain bike team specifically, but because of that, she's had like such a fresh perspective on everything, which is really nice because we have, just the opportunity to put in input and feedback, and there's not sort of any like previous norms or sort of like methods the team used. It's all just kind of like new and building together. So I think that's been really, really positive for me as well. And yeah, it's also been everything. Yeah.
And then final question, what's next for you now? Mountain bike season still goes on. What's up for you?
Yeah, so we actually still have quite a few World Cups left this season, which is really exciting. They do run super late into the season. So yeah, actually next weekend we have Lenzerheide here in Switzerland as well. And then we head back to the States for North America for the last 2 rounds in New York, and then finally in Mont Saint Anne, Canada. So that's really exciting as well to, race in our home country, a few World Cups for the first time. And then after that, a bit later in the season, once again, I'll be really excited to do some cross World Cups and really spend some time over in Europe doing some more cross. So lots of exciting things to come.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
I think my main takeaway from the interview was just what it means. Like, of course you expect people to be happy with a medal, right, at the World Championships. But the way she was standing on the podium, smiling from ear to ear, she looked the most happy of everyone on the podium, couldn't stop smiling. Even in the interview, like hours after, she was so happy. She's been close a number of times. And then it finally clicks, right? And she talks about overcoming adversity. Her mom got diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago and recovered, and that was very difficult for her to deal with. She overcame that off-the-bike adversity. She made a big step this year. She joined the Trinity program, left the premier American mountain bike team Bear, took a shot on a European program, moved to Spain, lives in Girona, spends a lot of time in Denia with her aunt. She has a Spanish family background, which you can maybe know from her last name. And then perhaps the most important part in that is the team environment. She says, here in this team, I don't have any pressure. I just race for enjoyment, enjoying every little minute. I did that today, and that helped. I didn't feel any pressure to perform at a certain standard, to get a certain degree of support. No, I have everything in line. This team is here. They support me, whether I'm good, whether I have a rough patch. They are there for me. I thought that was the main takeaway for me from that conversation.
It's something that with talents we at times do not take into regard enough. You know, the sacrifices that have to be made, the change of environment, change of teams. Those are things that could play a huge factor in the trajectory of a talent and also how a talent performs. When someone is in an environment that makes a rider feel happy and at home in a way and just comfortable, it just helps a bunch. And that is something that, as I said, we at times do not really take into account. And you know, we see a talent at times struggle in those crucial years, you know, and at times there is a story behind that which sometimes comes out and sometimes doesn't come out, and then it's always hard to judge. So I think especially with talents is if someone was a world-class talent at the age of, let's say, you know, randomly 18 or 17 and struggles when she or he is 19, you know, it doesn't mean that it all went away. Sometimes it just means it was a bad year or a bad season, and it can all come together again. But you need to trust and building that confidence again, and trying to get in a routine that works. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's you know, that's the whole ball game of sports overall. You know, it's just you got to be extremely lucky in a way, but it all has to work out and it all has to click. And it seems like for Lopez and San Roman, that's the case, and for many other talents that's also the case, and for some, unfortunately, that isn't, and that is sometimes the the difference between, making it or just failing and coming short.
Certainly, and it also adds to the interview we released with Katie Klaus on our Substack, and she talked about how for her going to human-powered health was really difficult because she wasn't ready for that level of professionalism and the expectations that the team had of her, that she felt worn out, burnt down by the end of that contract. And then she went to Steve Tilford Foundation, where she really became happy again and she started performing again. She said, and that's a quote from the interview, they say, happy rider performs well. And that quote is really true. It might be cliche, but it is true. So I think that's another factor that comes in here as well. And she's made tremendous progress compared to where she was in the cyclocross season, even compared to where she was last year. She's gone from 4th in the Junior Women's World Championships to 2nd in the U23 World Championships. We can't understate enough and underline what a huge step forward that has been for her. So really, really phenomenal ride by her. And then I guess we can talk now a bit about the point which I addressed earlier, Issam, the fact like how long will these riders stay here? Lopez San Roman has said she will do cross this season. She's going to the new USA Cycling long stay program. She's looking to race mostly European races, experience the toughest courses in the world. But then there's also the other riders. Like, if you look through the results, Valentina Corvi, Simon Andreasen, you can look at even Yolanda Neff, Evie Richards, Madigan Munro, all riders who've turned away from cross to focus on mountain biking. And in that list, Ian Eckert has now come in as well. It's kind of a bit double-edged sword, right? We're talking about all these cyclocross riders, but at the same time, mountain biking is a huge pull factor for them away from cyclocross. And honestly, I don't blame anybody who chooses mountain biking or road over cyclocross. It has the Olympic prestige. It has a lot more teams. It has a lot more money. Like, good luck if you're the best Canadian cyclocross rider finishing 5th in the Junior World Cups. The Belgian teams aren't really lining up to sign you. Unless you're like Stefano Viezzi, Mattia Agostinacchio, then the teams are ready. Like Agostinacchio, he leverages EF into forming a cyclocross team around him. Viezzi is on Alpecin. But if you're not of that caliber, it's really, really difficult for you to find a pathway in cyclocross. And if you have the off-road talent, there will be mountain bike teams offering you that pathway. The number of nationalities competing in mountain biking is absurd compared to cyclocross. Mountain biking is probably the most international sport within cycling, the most international discipline. A rider of Namibia finished 2nd in the Junior Men's World Championships. Like, it's a totally different ballpark that you're operating in, and it seems like it just makes sense, but it's kind of overshadowed, I feel, at this point. It's not that I didn't know this, but in Belgium, Netherlands, UK press, a lot of it is about, the road teams are scooping up the cyclocross talent now. But the mountain bike scene has been doing that for the best part of 30 years already, and will continue to do so.
Yeah, this is not something new, and I think we have in the past talked about it as well. It's hard to compete with the whole being Olympic. Setting that dream is something that, there are many athletes in the world that would do a whole lot of stuff just to participate in an Olympic event. That just makes it super special. And I think that appeal is definitely something which makes it very hard to compete against as cyclocross. And unfortunately, it is for those goals, I guess, it's just very hard to at times combine it. And as you say, I mean, I can remember with Neff, for example, showing up, doing some races, but I don't know what it is, but they have this feeling that it hampers them for their preparation towards mountain bike, and that was the story as well. It just also a different discipline in a way. We have seen that mountain bikers at times they need a couple of races to really get a rhythm, get it going, and feel more comfortable on the cyclocross bike and with the cyclocross courses as well. And when it is a bit tougher, I guess they excel a little bit more. But yeah, it's just overall, it is as a sport, it's just difficult because the appeal for mountain bike is just enormous, and the dream they sell is just hard to compete with. Cyclocross is not an Olympic sport. I don't want to turn it in that discussion, but it's just, again, just difficult.
like I said, I fully understand it. There is a lot more to be gained outside of cyclocross. It's hard to make it as a cyclocross racer. And to elaborate a bit on what you said, oh, there is like this feeling that it hampers your preparation. Well, and to an extent that's also true, right? Because the cross season is very violent. Like even a limited campaign, if you're peaking for it, it's another peak in your winter. And look at the way that the mountain bike season has evolved, Issam. The World Cup now ends in October. It spans from early April to early October, which is much longer than it used to be before. It's really stretching. You want some rest, and that's what Ian Eckert said. He said, it will be good for me to get some rest, some mental rest. I've never really gotten to take some time off. I only have 2 weeks, and then I started training for cross again. And with that, I also wasn't able to do endurance-based training. And now we're talking about that. I'm going to start another interview I did. This one is with Ben Bravman. He is the Pan American mountain bike champion in the junior category. He finished second at the Pan American and American Championships cyclocross last winter in the junior category. And he too has decided to cut back his cyclocross season for the upcoming winter to focus on his mountain biking career. And he will explain why. With me here now is Ben Bravman.
Yo.
Ben, how are you?
I'm doing good, Noah, thanks.
How's your mountain bike season been?
It's been a pretty good season. I mean, we've had a mix of domestic and European races this year. And yeah, it's been pretty good overall. It's I think it can always be challenging racing in Europe as an American, especially when you're not as used to the courses and the style of racing. But I really enjoy getting to learn the different style of racing in Europe, and I think I've really improved a lot, like racing at the highest level, from like the first races in Europe this year until World Champs. Even though I had a mechanical here, I'm happy with the progress I made this season for sure.
So you raced Heubach, then Nova Mesto, a Swiss race, a French race, and then the World Championships. What would you say, like in cross we know Americans always say the courses are more technical. What would you say is the difference on the mountain bike courses?
I think that one of the biggest differences is just the depth of the fields and like how full gas the racing is. Because I think in the US, it's a really defined front group usually. It's between maybe 5 to 10 guys at each race who are always in the front, but I think in Europe the fields are just so deep and there's so many guys who can compete for the podium or for the win that it's just full gas the entire time. I mean, I think after the start in the US, typically there will be 1 or 2 laps pretty full gas, and then it more settles into a rhythm. It's what I think. And then in Europe, it's more just go the entire time, and there's no really settling in. It's just full gas, like you're uncomfortable the entire time. You don't have any really, like, you have to pick out places on the course where you can try to recover, because it's just always going to be full gas. And if you're off the pace a little bit, you're immediately getting swarmed by like 10 guys.
How do you reflect on your season? Of course, a bummer that you have a exploded tire in the biggest race of the year, but Pan American title, good results at nationals, a top 10 in Europe as well. So how do you look back on your mountain bike campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been pretty good. Like, I mean, I'm definitely happy with a lot of the results this year. Or, I mean, I think I learned a lot. Like, I think the experience I gained this year will really help me coming into the under 23s, which I'm really excited about. And I think, yeah, just trying to pretty much race in Europe as much as I can these next years will be really good for me. And I think, yeah, I've made steps that I can really build on this year. I mean, I'm happy with taking a few wins in American races and a couple of pretty good results in Le Minier and all right result in Basel, but yeah, I mean, I think my shape has really improved like over this last year, and I'm excited to keep it going and see what I can do next year as a first year under 23.
Then what do the next coming months bring for you?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing 2 collegiate mountain bike races, I think, coming up, including collegiate nationals in this fall, which is at Powderhorn in Grand Junction, or just outside of Grand Junction. And after that, maybe I'll be taking a little bit of time off, but then, yeah, I mean, probably a lighter cyclocross season for me this year. I just want to make sure I'm fully recovered after the mountain bike season, because it's been a long season and I've had a few small breaks, but not, I mean, I think it'll be nice to just fully reset before coming into next season. And I think trying to take time off, like after I finish the mountain bike season, after collegiate nationals, and then to maybe keep the season rolling, just focus on base with a few cyclocross races mixed in, and then keep it rolling through the mountain bike season could be really beneficial for me, since I've really never done much of a actual base season, because I'm always racing cyclocross through the entire winter pretty much.
So you're looking at some domestic races and then close it off with nationals?
Yeah, I think probably a few domestic races and probably nationals to finish the season. I mean, I think we'll see how it's going. Maybe I'll continue to do some more racing if it's really good and I'm motivated for it. But definitely I'll be doing the UCI race in Boulder, which I'm really excited about. I think it's super nice to have a UCI race back in Colorado, which there hasn't been for a pretty long time. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. And then also maybe Pan Am's, which is the week prior to the Boulder UCI race, and for sure nationals. So that's all I'm 100% about is Boulder and nationals, maybe Pan Am's. So, but then we'll see.
So again, Issam, it's a combination of them wanting to use the winter to be as best as possible on the mountain bike. They want to pursue their dreams. For many of them, the Olympic dream is the biggest. It's the highest achievable in sport. And without coming into that discussion about the Olympics, Issam, the reason why I'm thinking this is important, right, is because I obviously care about cyclocross as a sport. And people ask me, well, doesn't it have a place? Like, do you think that cross is dead? No, I don't think cyclocross is fully dead. I think if you compare it to where cyclocross was 30 years ago, it would be considered dead. But it has a place and will always have a place. But the question is, what is that place? And how do you carve out that place? Because if you as a sport don't evolve and move with your time, you will get past. Cycling in many countries was the second biggest sport in Europe. European countries, that is. But doping scandals happened, the format didn't really evolve, the Tour de France is still pretty much the same thing. They're only now discovering that we're in the big 2025 and they can use picture-in-picture. Like, the cycling broadcasts haven't evolved with the time, there's not enough storytelling, and with that the popularity is hurting compared to where it was, and road cycling is kind of stabilized at a level, but you don't want to keep falling backwards and just keep holding on to what you have. You need to move forward, move with your time. You need to, as a company, as a product, always try and grow. And I think that would do the sport much more good. It would allow new markets to come in. It would allow more riders. And I think with that, the main thing is that it would become a more competitive sport. And that's what I would prefer to see. More competitiveness with the best riders from other countries having pathways to stay in the sport. And for now, as I just said, it's very hard for them, and Ben Bravman and Ian Eckert are just two examples of riders who are moving out to focus on sports where they do have pathways.
It is understandable, it is understandable that it's hard to combine. I mean, we see it, for example, with the road, even that is just that decisions have to be made. I think it's a little different with the whole road cyclocross. Of course, it's also very difficult, but I feel that it suits a little more to combine it, because it has also been part of preparation for some, and it is different for, some will be able to implement it a little bit easier into their season than others. If for mountain bike, it's just a difficult situation. And it's just hard, and as you say, a rider also wants to take a little bit of rest. The season is long. It's longer than it was, and that that will also play a role, I guess. And again, it's just a difficult situation for those riders. It's a difficult situation to combine, and there is not much they can do. They just have to make very hard decisions, and that is what we have been saying about this whole multidisciplinary thing that we have going on with the riders, that decisions have to be made at times, and you have to be they have to be conscious decisions and decisions that make sense. And if it makes sense, you have to do it, and not feel of course, if you love cyclocross, it will be a decision that will be hard to make, but you have to make it. That's the way it goes.
Well, and adding to that, Issam, is the model of being dependent on one region is like very vulnerable as well, right? So you're completely right in saying that it makes sense and they move out because there's more money and opportunities. And with that, cross hangs on to its popularity in the Netherlands and Belgium. That's why it has a place, and it has a place in a development tool, and it's great for like developing skills and whatnot for riders. And I do think it has a place in competition format as well. But the popularity of cross we're seeing is becoming increasingly hinged upon the presence of Van der Poel, Van Aert, Nys. If these riders don't start the races, then there's fewer spectators. So already you see this shift in Belgium happening, that more and more races move to the Christmas period to get one of the two at the start. Some of them will be happy with Pidcock as well. He draws in a decent crowd as well. So they're all thinking in that regard. But then what happens if the next generation of riders doesn't follow in the steps of these multidisciplinary stars? What if they decide, well, cross, it's been fun, but I had a world title. Whatever, I'm going to go onto the road full time. They go for the Lars Boom trajectory. Does that then really do the sport good? What would the allure and the draw for fans be at that point? There was already this whole discussion when Nys retired. The whole generation with Nys, Wellens, Albert, all of a sudden they were gone. Cross was pronounced dead. Van Aert, Van der Poel needed a lot of time to build a big following, and that really, really came once they hit the success on the road as well. And what happens if the next generation, for some reason, doesn't want to or isn't able to or isn't allowed to do that combination? Then all of a sudden, even in the Netherlands and Belgium, the situation of cross becomes quite pale. So I think that's where my main worry is, that it's quite fragile. But I also want to be optimistic. And with that, I have a final interview from Crans Montana with Kian Reid, a rider who was sick, didn't perform as well as he hoped in Crans Montana, but is stoked for the cyclocross season. He was third in one of the most prestigious races of the season in Novo Mesto. It's the only race attached to a World Cup which has a junior race, so almost all the top guys were there. He finished third there, and he is stoked and hopes to make similar leaps forward during this cyclocross season. Okay, we're here in Crans Montana for the Mountain Bike World Championships, and with me here is Kian Reid, who races for the Bear national team on the mountain bike and cyclocross bike this winter as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How are you feeling after your race here?
Oh man, it was a hard race. I came in here with a lot of expectations, but unfortunately I've been a little sick and the legs weren't there.
So tell us a bit, let's start at the start of last season, your first year as a junior. You started in cyclocross. How was that season for you?
It was a good season overall. I had a lot of mechanicals, rolled like 4 tubies. So it was a challenging year, but I learned a lot. First year racing UCI, so I learned a lot, and I think it helped me this year too with the mountain bike.
You came over from Team Booger.
That's right.
How's that team contributed to your development?
Definitely, they helped me. It was a good stepping stone. They didn't have as much support, but it was I learned a lot of teamwork, and then just I started traveling with them and stuff, and then I transitioned to Bear, and then yeah.
So last year you also came over here during Christmas to race cross.
Yep.
What was your first experience? Was that your first time in Europe, your first time racing here?
Yeah, first time in Europe. It was amazing. It was it totally opened my mind to how much different European racing is. So much more competitive. The fields are so deep. It's super competitive, and just everyone's super aggressive. So positioning is key. Starts are super important. And then just being super consistent throughout the race is what I learned is super important.
You would be what we call an overall athlete, because is it correct that last year you also did Nordic skiing skill at quite a high level?
Yeah, I did Nordic skiing, and then I also played baseball pretty competitively. So Yeah.
And where are you now? Like cyclocross, mountain bike combination, still doing other sports, focusing more on mountain bike? What are you
Right now, I'm
looking for?
focusing on cycling overall, kind of going like season by season. So I've just finished up my mountain bike season, and then I'm going to take about 2 weeks off, recover, and then hop straight into cyclocross and go to Trek Cup to start my season.
So before we talk about the upcoming cyclocross season, let's go back to your mountain bike season because it's been quite impressive. As a first year, where did you start your season?
So I went to Puerto Rico. This is my first big year mountain biking, so I didn't really have that many expectations, but I had some good results in Puerto Rico. I went to Vail Lake. I had some good results. Arkansas was my breakout. I podiumed at the HC on Sunday, which was like my first like big result. That got me invited to the Nova Mesto block with USAC, and then there I got a top 10 at Heubach in Germany, and then a podium at the World Cup at Nova Mesto.
Yeah, could you tell us a bit more about that? Because that was a spectacular result, especially for a first-year junior.
Yeah, it was honestly like a surprise to me. I knew that I had the legs, and I knew I had like the ability to race up at the front, but a podium was just incredible. But yeah, I found myself in the front group. I felt amazing, and then the group whittled down to 3, and I pulled off a podium.
And how was your second half of the season? Because I understood you had a injury before nationals.
Yeah. So after Nova Mesto, I got back, and literally like less than a week after I got back, I broke my scapula, went over the bars, broke my scapula, and I was out for 6 weeks. But fortunately, I was able to get back before nationals, and podium. But mentally, that was super challenging. I missed a lot of racing and points, but I was able to come through for nationals and then make the Worlds trip.
How has it been for you to combine like such a heavy loaded cycling season? Like you need to travel a lot with school.
Yeah, it's definitely super hard. I've been going to public school, and I just learned a lot about like staying on top of my work and stuff, which I think is super important because I know in the future it's going to come in handy.
So you came back in nationals, you got a podium there. How did you arrive here in Switzerland? With what type of expectations, what type of excitement did you
My
come
expectations, like after Nova Mesto and nationals, I knew I had good form, but so obviously my goals were to podium, but I got here and I just felt pretty bad, super tired. I felt kind of sick, so I kind of just went out there with no expectations, just to have fun, and went out, didn't have good legs, but still just tried to have fun and finish, which is what I did. So I guess I'm just learning to persevere, and although I didn't have the result I wanted, it was just a great experience and I learned a lot.
We're still less than 24 hours after your race, but do you think that it's also a step of learning in your career?
For sure, yeah. I think if I just won all the time, eventually I wouldn't have the motivation. So I think having that fuel for next year is super important. So I know that I have a lot to improve on, and I know that mentally I need to stay sharp in order to get the results I want.
Then the upcoming cross season, you said 2 weeks of rest, then starting in Trek Cup.
Yep.
What's your schedule looking like?
So it's I think my schedule right now is Trek, really rad, Pan Ams, and then Nationals, and then Europe, hopefully.
So you're looking for like Christmas racing and then eventually Worlds? Or
Yeah, that's the goal. Yep. Yeah.
You'll be racing for Bear. Are you excited
Bear
for that
CX.
step?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Yeah, pumped.
And then already, like any goals or expectations? You obviously made a big step on the mountain bike. What are you thinking for the cross bike?
Yeah, I think I have a chance at being at the front in a lot of races, so I'm just trying to get as many points, hopefully get podiums and wins, and then carry that confidence and form into Europe.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
your time.
thanks,
Kian,
Noah.
and good luck the upcoming season.
Appreciate it.
Issam, Kian Reid will start his cyclocross season in a few weeks' time in the final weekend of the USCX series. That series opened this weekend in Roanoke with the Go Cross, traditionally a very fast and dusty race. We had Magali Rochette double up for the victory on both days with quite a comfortable margin. On the first day, she was joined on the podium by Mia Asseltine and Manon Bakker. The next day, Manon Bakker, Dutch rider, went over last year as well, finished second with third place going to good old Caroline Mani. What are your takes here?
Rochette started quite strong, and that is something that we have seen in the past, that she can, with these type of races, she's always up there early on in the season, and she makes a goal of it to perform well in the USCX series, and that's great to see that she is able to do it once again. With Bakker, it's difficult for me to judge how she will be going into the main part of the season, when we go into the World Cups and the classified races in Super Prestige and the XO Trophy. But it will be interesting to see how she will perform there, because sort of last year it was almost task that we gave her in terms of being able to race more up the front. I think she can do better, but then it also has to come together, and that's why I'm sort of saying it's hard to judge where she is now with the results, and how you cannot really judge it, I guess, because you don't need to be at your best currently. You need to be at your best when it's November, December, then you have to be at your best, and that's just hard to judge where she's at the moment. But we will see how that will play out, and hopefully it will be a better season for her, because I think that there is she has that in her to be more up the front, but it all has to come together, and the form has to be there, and build up is definitely start of that whole coming together and being better.
Last year was not a good season for her. Her season ended after the XO Trophy in Herentals, and that was it. But I would say that this season start is promising. It's early days. It's all about, can you prolong your peak throughout the season? But I did read a number of things, and Magdalena Rochette also sent us a book, which our North American correspondent Patrick is reading and looking through. But what he sent me looked really, really nice. A very detailed book about her cross, and with some pictures in there, very detailed about what things mean. So that was really cool to receive. So a big thank you for that in the first place, if anybody in Camp Rochette is listening. And if you're listening, then now maybe put your fingers in your ears. But Rochette is 32 years old, so we also need to be realistic and know that there's not that many more years in her career left at the highest level in Europe. We look at the U23 riders, we look at them coming through, we look at the Canadian Nationals last year and see that Isabella Holmgren won the national title there. And we also need to be honest then and question, can Rochette ever still win a World Cup? There was this very small window in 2021-2022 season. She was second, really, really epic ride in Besançon. She was one of the favorites in Val di Sole. I was at that race. I believed she could win, but it just didn't come together on the day. Van Empel and Vos came on top there. I believe that was the first World Cup win for Van Empel. Since then, it's been a bit up and down, but I still remember that we interviewed her in the first season of our podcast, 2020-2021 season, and she said, my ambitious goal is to make the top 10 of the World Championships in Fayetteville next year, and she did. And she did not just that year, she did it the year after and the year after. So she's still a very highly qualitative rider, but my question really is, how does she hold up in the European courses now, in this day and age? The field has developed quite quickly over the last couple of years, and if you look at the last full season she was slightly off the top 10 in most of the World Cups, but still in the top 10 at the World Championships. So that will be interesting, and what I will say, I really, really, really enjoy seeing them go into the communal spirit of cyclocross, giving these clinics, giving these pasta parties and pizza parties around the races, really inspiring and feeding the next generation of racers with passion. That's really top notch. Seeing the length of this episode, Issam, I think we will leave the discussions about Manon Bakker, Mia Asseltine for a bit later. I think Mia is off to race the Road World Championships in Rwanda, which makes it a quite interesting decision to already get some cyclocross racing under your belt, but doesn't surprise me then that she is in good form. She had a good road season. The course at Go Cross was quite fast, so that will be interesting to see what she can do in Rwanda. She's racing the time trial and the road race. That is what Tyler Sampson told us in our previously released podcast. And then Strohmeyer, the American national champion, starts the season with 2 wins out of 2 races, beating Eric Brunner on both days. Brunner, you'll be pleased to know it, I watched CXTV from our colleagues over at Wide Angle Podium. CX Harris putting that out there. Quite detailed highlights. Brunner Issam still climbing in the arrow position all of the time.
Oh God. Yeah, well, if it works, it works, huh? It doesn't look all too great. It wouldn't be my style of riding, but if it works, it works, and it's just one of those things. But I think Strohmeyer is starting very strong. Question will be how we have seen that he has been able to do this, but I really want to see him being able to also stick around with the best guys in Europe, because I feel that is also, you want to be up there as well. And I felt that, last year it didn't really happen, and I think that is definitely a goal you should pursue. I think that it would be great to see him up there at the front. And with the front, I mean, the best, top 15, top 10, I think that's definitely results he should aim for. But, with this, we had to always know that, with the USCX series, Strohmeyer will be there, will be strong, and will always be able to fight for victory and be up there on the podium. So he did that. That's very strong. And, again, I'm very interested to see how he will deal with the European competition come November, December, and how that will play out.
One of the things we wrote in our bold takes for the upcoming cyclocross season regarding North America was that Strohmeyer would get a World Cup top 10. I do believe it's possible. Last year he had solid outings in Hulst and Dublin. He had a lot of illnesses that held him back in the second half of the season, but especially on a somewhat faster course, maybe not too technical, he could do well, although last year he did show some signs of improvement on that aspect as well. So in that sense, I'm not really surprised that he is the best rider in the USCX series. I think he should be the best American rider. For the rest, there were some U23s in the top 10. There are two riders, Luke Walter and Kaya Musgrave, who have found a spot on a German team, Pure Energy Drink Haro Bikes. We had that news in our Substack as well. And they will be racing in Europe for most of the season, so it'll be interesting to see how they develop. I think that's a very encouraging step. Tofik Bashir, a Ethiopian rider who lives in the US, is now being picked up by CXD Bike. He impressed me with 2 sixth places. He appeared very strong, but unfortunately my understanding is that it's difficult for him to race outside of the US due to the political situation in the country. And then finally, Dylan Zakryzak returned to racing. Maybe somewhat disappointing results for people who only look at the face value, but Zakryzak broke his collarbone on the road this year and is still working back from that. Then Issam, there was also racing over here in Europe. We had racing in the UK. The Hope Supercross series took place. 2 wins for Laura Verdonschot. I would say, job done. Anything else would have been a major disappointment.
Anything else would have been washed. No, it actually did what you had to do. And early on in the season, mistakes and mishaps are allowed. But with the field, it still should have been easy wins. And she did just that. And I think that is the most important thing. Get the points and you move on.
Points. It's all that matters at this point in the season, Issam. You see the Belgians going over, Kenai de Mooijer taking 2 wins in Bradford as well. Important season for him. Final year U23, his contract is up. He needs to perform because if he doesn't, he will probably be on the same trajectory as Jorben Laurijsen. Laurijsen finished second in both races, is also still on Powell Sauze, but his contract is not extended and he has signed with Tarteletto Isorex starting on January 1st. Oscar Amy got a 3rd place there on the first day, which was good to see. That brings us to the final race, the Kleberg Cross in Mechelen. Wietse Meeuwse took the win in the men elite race ahead of Mees Hendricks and Arthur Sontjens. For me, that was kind of the only real standout result here. Sontjens, really surprising name in 3rd place, but at the same time, the reason I chose to not attend this race, even if I hadn't gone to Crans Montana, was that the start list this year was really weak compared to previous seasons. I mean, if you look at the top 10, it's really not that great. Floris Haverdings 4th, Raymond Del Noy 5th. It's not as packed as it was last year or the year before. And that was also kind of telling on the women's side. Alicia Frank took the win there. She now races for the Lotto X Oats team, the team we saw Jens Adams race in. Her teammate Kiona Krabbe took second place, and Laura Molengraaf started her cross season with a third place ahead of Julie Brouwers. Brouwers didn't have a good day. I believe there was also a mechanical issue involved there, and for Molengraaf, it's the start of a long trajectory back, is what I read on her Instagram.
Good to see Molengraaf back again on her bike, and you know, trying to get to that promising level again. You know, it's gonna be a tough road, but it is definitely not impossible, and you know, that will definitely be interesting to follow how that will play out. Will she be able to somewhat fulfill the promises that we saw from her? Will she be able to, you know, get on that level? It will be interesting to follow, and it's good that she's starting from, you know, early on in the season. That gives you a lot of time to build. And yeah, we will see how that will go.
Then there is still more news to discuss, because it's been a very busy week in terms of cyclocross news. Let's start with getting this out of the way. On behalf of the Cyclocross Social Podcast, we issue an apology to Tom Pidcock for a lack of belief in his GC ambitions. Third place in the Vuelta, up there for almost the entire race. Suffered on the Angliru, but managed to hang on. Now we can also get into the disclaimers. It was not a very hard Vuelta. There was not a lot left of the Vuelta with all the protests. The competition was not as strong, but still, Issam. Podium is a podium. Even if he needed to stand on a cooler after the last stage was cancelled, he did it.
Absolutely, and I think he deserves some credit, despite the fact that a couple of things went his way. But sometimes you need that luck. It's not going to be the first time that someone made it on the podium with a little bit of luck. And yeah, it's something it needs to click. And he had that race. It was just everything kind of went his way somewhat, and he was able to hang on and finish in third. I think it looks to be that way from his reaction and the way he has outed himself towards the media and the press. You know, he has been very happy with this, and it seems like it's somewhat of a relief, because this was a dream of his, to be on the podium of a Grand Tour, to fight for victory. Now, that was not really the case, but he was able to fight for a podium. He got on that podium, and yeah, it will be interesting to see what that will mean for next season, how they will plan it, what will be the goals. Will they blindly stare on the Grand Tour, or will they shift their focus maybe away a little bit towards other goals? Who knows? Probably is going to be the first one, I guess, where they will focus on another Grand Tour. But he has shown now that he can perform for 3 weeks on this course, and you know, we have to wait and see if they will go for a Giro, Tour, or Vuelta again. What the course will be, and how that will play out for him. But it's also a confidence thing. Once you get on that podium, you kind of have a feeling of how you should race for 3 weeks. Some of the fears go away, and it could help a rider positively.
I hope Tom Pidcock becomes Road World Champion, because then he will start thinking about that Triple Crown again. So that means he will do a more extensive cyclocross campaign. He will also come into the mountain bike then next year. I think that would be great. But yeah, it's no real point in speculating about what will happen and what will he do about cross. We'll find out. I mean, maybe he's done. He has the world title. He's figured it's time to go elsewhere. Maybe he's decided, I've got this Grand Tour podium now. I can try other things again. You never know with Pidcock what he really is up to. Then the final point that we have on our list is also one that honestly would have been worth starting the episode with. Issam. Fem van Empel has announced that she will come back. She's not pursuing any goals on the road anymore. We don't need to come into, some people predicted that this was what happened, just no motivation on the road or whatever. It doesn't really matter who predicted what and who thought what reasons were behind it. It's just good to hear that she's found her mojo again, found her drive again. And I read the long interview with her, which was in Dutch newspaper AD, and they had a very, I think, striking quote. After the third world title, I didn't feel any emotions anymore. I had just become a person who rode her bike. I didn't know who I was off the bike. All I did was ride the bike. I was immediately thinking about the next goals, the road season. I hit a wall. The combination of mental and physical struggles, I had a number of smaller injuries throughout the season, were just too much. I burnt down, but luckily then the team said, take as much time as you need. I went mountain biking, I did crazy downhills, I went walking, I tried other things, and rediscovered who I was as a person. It's just nice to hear that she's in a better spot right now. And earlier we talked about the comments of Lopez de San Roman about having like a good support net around you, and it appears that Fem van Empel had that as well. And it's just good to have Van Empel back and ready to race, because it would be a shame to see a talent like that burn out.
Absolutely. And, I will not let it slide if I can critique Visma in any way. But I think they definitely, they did the right thing, there to give her time. And I think, there was a time where that was definitely not a thing. It was either you're racing or you're not. And if you're not racing, well, good luck, find another team. And it has changed a little bit, the whole idea of the mental health and also in terms of, how difficult that is to manage as an athlete in a way. So that's good to see. And, the one thing that I somewhat struggled with was sort of the opening that was left in terms of what can happen in the future in terms of road racing, that there was a small, the door was just slightly open there in terms of a chance of going back and also doing competitive road racing, and not only in terms, not only doing road racing in preparation of the cyclocross season, which I think in a way, I still have that in me in a way that I just want to see how that potential on the road come out, because I still think that is there. But it's also good that she found, that she found herself a way a little bit again, and you then have to, do what you do best, and she can, do cyclocross at the moment as one of the best, the best in the world. And it will be a pleasure again to see her in the field this season. If it's not going to be dominating, winning, and we will see how that will go, and it will be interesting. But it's just great that she's not going to be, that we are going to miss her this season. She will be part of it, and that is always great to hear.
Honestly, I understand the kind of opening for the future, because you indeed never really know. It would have been really bad press for Visma as well if they said, oh, you don't want to do road anymore now? Okay, too bad, you're out of the team. I think that would have been insufferable damage. I'm not trying to indicate that this is why they're keeping her on the team at all, because I do believe that the people at Visma care about Fem van Empel and want to be supporting her and have her in a good place. And for that team, there's also some value in cyclocross due to their Dutch background. But still, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Fem van Empel make a return to the mountain bike in the future, because she has top 10 World Cup potential there. She made a big step forward in the season. She tried to go for Olympic qualification there. In the article, she mentioned that the mountain bike helped her refine the joy in cycling. She enjoyed the downhills. I don't think, and I don't hope that Fem van Empel is going to become a mountain bike downhiller, because I wouldn't be surprised if Fem van Empel returns to the mountain bike over the road, and we will see what Visma does and what direction it goes. She has recently extended her contract, so it seems like she'll be secure for the upcoming few years, and we'll just see what comes for this cyclocross season. Is this a return to Fem van Empel dominance? Are we going to get a Fem van Empel quad-peat? Or do we see a slightly different Fem van Empel, one that maybe takes lessons from the quote we had earlier, I just race and try to enjoy every moment, and the result is secondary. Good. That wraps up a long episode of the Cyclocross Social Podcast. Issam, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
We will be back next week with a new weekly update, and next week I will also try and bring you an interview, but that remains to be determined. Thanks everyone for listening. Catch you guys soon. Goodbye.